This should work. This should work. This should work. This should work. Why is this thing doing like this? This is not working. This is not working. This is not working. Yeah. Hello. Please, can you hear me? I don't know what's happening today. Oh, I think because the first one went off, most of us are also gone. So kindly, I'm going to place the link over here. So kindly share to them so that they can also join. Okay. Okay. So I think the numbers is going up. Sorry for sorry for what happened earlier. Okay. So please let's wait for 5 minutes. Okay. So by 7:30 then we can proceed. So I'll share the documents again over here so that we can all have access to it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So sorry for what happened earlier. Okay. I think our numbers is going up. So I'll share the documents up again. I'll share it here so that we can also have access to it so that when we start we can all move together. And please, if I'm moving fast, you just alert me so that I'll slow down. All right, so let me share the documents here again. copy the link and send it to you guys. Okay, so let me share it here. So there's a link to the document that we'll be using. All right, so it also contains the links to the data sets that we'll be using. So you kindly open it, then get the data that you'll be working with. Okay. Okay, so please it's 7:28. Can we start now? Can we please start now? Okay, so I think we can start now unless maybe you guys want us to, let's say, wait a while. So looking at looking at the document that I sent, you've been able to access it. So we go through the table of content, then we can proceed to um the other the other ones that we have. All right. So I'll move straight to the table of content, and we can also discuss. Then we proceed to the business for today. Okay. So looking at so let me share my entire window. Okay. So looking at the PDF document, this is what I sent to you through the link. Okay. So we have our table of contents. We have our so we're looking at introduction to hyperlinks. Then move on to advanced data validation, if a nested if function. Then we also look at other logical functions like the end and or function, the index and match, then other text function like the text, concatenate, left, right, mid, trim, and also error handling functions like if error and is error. So I hope everyone has the document that I'm using, right? Because it has the data sets that you'll be using in it. So I'm assuming that we all have it. So we move straight to hyperlinks. All right. Now we all know that when we talk of like hyperlinks are clickable links that takes us to, let's say, a different worksheet, let's say Excel, or even a web page in our Excel worksheet. So if you have a hyperlink in, let's say, a worksheet, we can just click on it and it takes us to a different worksheet or a different cell or even to a file destination outside our workbook. All right. And in Microsoft Excel, we have various ways that we can incorporate hyperlinks in our worksheets. And even apart from that, hyperlinks are also very important. Important because we can use them for a wide range of purposes. And the common one that we know is for um, let's say creating dashboards or even maybe using them in our reports so that if we want to locate a particular information within the worksheet, it will be easier and simpler for the person using the worksheet. Okay. So without much ado, if you have the data, so if you have this document over here, you can see the data over here. So data one, you can see data hyperlinks.xl. So that's the link to the data that I'll be using for this topic, that's the hyperlinks. So if you look at the document, we have some basic history about hyperlinks that you can read. Now, when we go into our Excel, we'll be looking at the various types of hyperlinks that we have. So with the various types of hyperlinks, we can insert a hyperlink within a worksheet, that's linking it to a cell specific name range, or let's say a worksheet. All right. Then apart from that, we can also use external hyperlinks. Now, for the external hyperlinks, we are linking them to other files, as we can see over here. Okay. So it helps us to open another Excel file, a Word document, a PDF, or a folder, right? So instead of, let's say, moving out of our worksheet and opening that folder, that PDF, or let's say that file, we can just create hyperlinks for them. So then immediately we click on that hyperlinks, those folders just open for us, right? Then we can also talk about web hyperlinks. So this is where we also bring in web pages, URL links into our worksheets. So let's say if we are working with financial reports, and maybe with our report we sourced, let's say, a document, or let's say a paragraph from a specific book or a specific website, and we want to direct the person or the end user of our report to that website to have a look at it. We can just incorporate hyperlinks in it, so that when the person just clicks on it, it moves the person directly to that web page. Then the last one that we'll be looking at is email hyperlinks. So email hyperlinks is where we place emails in our worksheet, so that when we click on it, automatically it opens, let's say, our mailbox for us to, let's say, send a mail to that specific email address. All right. Now in Excel also we have various ways that we can insert hyperlinks. So the first one, we can use the insert hyperlink dialog box, right? So with the insert hyperlink dialog box, you can just right click. So when we get into our data, we also look at that. So with that, what we do is you can also right click, then select hyperlinks, or you can just use the keyboard shortcut control key. So the keyboard shortcut control key. Now we can also use the hyperlink function, right? So with that one also, just like the other functions that we know, just write equal to, then hyperlink, then it follows as usual. Also look at that one. Then we can also just drag and drop hyperlinks from, if it is, let's say, in our address bar in a web page, we can just drag and drop in our worksheet, and it also um, works. All right. So if you have the data, I'll move straight to the data, so that we can also look at how the hyperlinks works, and also how we can also create some on our own. Okay. So please, I hope you have the data now. You've been able to access the data. So please, if you've been able to access, let me know in the comment section, so that if you don't have it, I can just send a link to that data instead of the document. All right. So let me move there. So moving straight to our hyperlink. Yes, please. So I think we'll have a recorded section, just like the first one that we did, so that you can also have access to it when you have, let's say, strong internet. Okay. So I'll move straight to our data set that we'll be using. All right. So this is the data set that we'll be using, and we can also see it. You can have access to it in the document that I sent earlier. All right. So with the hyperlinks, there are several ones. Okay. So with the hyperlinks, okay, there are various ways that we can use the hyperlinks. So this is a hyperlink that I created. So it's a hyperlink that's showing, let's say, table of contents. And immediately we put our cursor on it, it changes, and it also directs us to the specific sheet, worksheets that we can find a dashboard, then the specific sheet for all data, summary data, and the rest. Okay. So you realize that I mentioned earlier that with the hyperlinks, we can use them when we are, let's say, creating dashboards, or maybe sending financial reports in financial reports in Excel. So this is how they work. So if you look at the dashboard worksheet over here, so if you look at the dashboard worksheet over here, now you can see that with this dashboard there are several hyperlinks in it. So you can see it says click here. So with this click here, you can see that there's an arrow pointing down where we can just click on these and it takes us to a specific worksheet. So, and one thing that we already know, immediately you place your cursor on a hyperlink, it changes to that hand. All right. So you can see that when you place it on this over here, it changes to that hand. And immediately we hit on it, you can see that we are getting reference isn't valid. So this is also an error that we can encounter when we are dealing with hyperlink. So as we go forward, I also talk about how we can handle such errors. Now, if we move to the summary data, immediately we click on it, it takes us to the summary data sheet. All right. Then same for the question one, same for question two, and same for question three. All right. So this is what we'll be looking at. So what we are going to do is that over here, the navigation. So with the navigation sheet over here, all right, I'll just create a new sheet so that we can work with it. All right. So what we are going to do is that we are going to create hyperlinks, which will lead us to or to help us locate a specific sheet within this workbook. All right. Oh, so please, if you work within my worksheet, it's how do you call it? An online document. So if you work within it, I also have the same effect will be happening over here. All right. So even if I work over here, you get everything that will be doing at your end within the data. Okay. So you can open, let's say, a new workbook and you can follow later. You can have access to everything that will be doing within this worksheet at your end. All right. So working with this worksheet. So NS, sorry, okay. I think you created a new sheet. So working within this worksheet, you want to create a hyperlink. So that immediately we click on that hyperlink, it takes us to, let's say, the all data, the all data sheet. All right. So over here, you can, so let me just type hyperlinks. So hyperlinks. All right. Then I can, so let me just increase it a little bit. Now, I want to create a hyperlink so that immediately I click on it, it can just take me directly to the all data sheet over here. Now, in doing that, you realize that I mentioned several ways that we can do that. The first one is we can use the insert hyperlink dialog box. All right, so with the insert hyperlink dialog box, what we do is that we right click. All right, now immediately let me see. Immediately we right click. All right, we see link over here. Oh, all right. So immediately you right click, you see link over there, then you click on link. All right. Now the text to display. So text to display will be what you want to appear on the in the cell over here. Then the address over here will be the link, or let's say if it's a web address, the URL link. All right. Now we also mentioned when we were discussing the theory that we can either create an internal hyperlink, an external hyperlink, an email hyperlink, or a web hyperlink. So with this one, we're going to work within the same worksheet. So what I'm going to do is that you are going to click on existing file web page. So existing file web page, okay. So with that one, maybe I want it to display maybe data. All right, data. Now the address that I want to, with this one, I'm not dealing with address, but rather I want to use how do you call it? I want to use I want to use a worksheet, right? I want to link it to a worksheet. So in this instance, you can see several documents over here. If I was, let's say, to link this hyperlink to an external file, then that's why I can just click on one of these, or I can change the folder over here. Then I can select any of these folders and choose my file from. All right. So with this one, I want to place it within. So with this one, I want to place it within um, this document. So it's an internal hyperlink. So I'll just select the worksheet that I want to link it to. I want to link it to the all data worksheet. Then I can hit OK. Immediately I hit OK, you can see over here that I get data. So let me just increase it. You can see that I get data. All right. And immediately I place the cursor on it, it changes to, how do you call it, the hand pointing on the data. All right, and you can see the web address displayed just beneath it. So if I click on it, you can see it takes me directly to the all data, to my all data sheet. All right, so that's how you can also work with placing, let's say, a hyperlink within your worksheet. Okay, so the next one that we can also look at is, let's do one more, then we can also go ahead with it. So still on the internal hyperlinks, all right? So now let's say I want to create a hyperlink to the question one. Maybe I want to create a question one worksheet. So what I'll do is, still using the hyperlink dialog box, all right? You remember that the first time we right clicked, then we came to link, all right? Now this time we can use control key, right? And we get our hyperlink dialog box. Then we can go ahead and select question one. Then we can hit OK. Immediately we do that, you can see that we also get a link for question one. Immediately we hit on it, it takes us directly over here. All right. So that's how we can work with hyperlinks. That's internal hyperlinks within our data. Okay. Now, the next one I want us to look at is that I want us to also look at, let's say, the external hyperlink. So this one is the internal. Then we can also go ahead and look at the external. All right. So with the external, remember we mentioned that with the external hyperlinks, we are linking to other files. All right. So we can link it to another Excel file, a Word document, a PDF, or let's say a folder. All right. So with this one, we can also go hit our control key. Really, we hit our control key. Now this time, we are not linking it to a place in this document, but rather we are linking it to an existing file or a web page. So with this one, we are linking it to an existing file. So I can just hit on it. All right. Now I have several files over here. Right. I have several files over here. So let me link it to, let's say, Excel for Finance PDF. Then I can hit OK. Now immediately I do that, you can see that I'm getting a tall link over here. Now I'm getting this because the hyperlink is displaying as the text that I want to see, but rather I can also change it. If I want to change it, I can go back and edit it. All right, and that's one way that you can also manage hyperlinks. So I can hold control, then key, then the dialog box open again. Now instead of getting the whole hyperlinks to display, I can just edit it and maybe type Excel. So Excel for Finance. So 2, then I hit OK. Nearly I do that, you can see that this has also changed. So you can see that first we were seeing the hyperlink, but now we are seeing Excel for Finance 2. Immediately I click on it, it will take me to the file. All right, but because I'm sharing only the Excel window, you'll not be seeing that. So but that's how you go about it. All right, and if we were also to, let's say, use a web page, or let's say um, a URL link, is the same way we go about it. All right. So with that one also, our control key, then link to, and this time we select the first one, which is existing file or web page. All right. Now the text to display, maybe I want to create a link to, let's say, Netflix. All right. So I can just type the text to display to be maybe Netflix. Then I provide the next Netflix URL. All right. Then maybe www dot maybe netflix.com. Then I hit OK. Immediately I do that, you can see I also have a hyperlink for Netflix. Now, with this one, the importance of using, let's say, the hyperlinks, maybe the web page hyperlink is that, just like I mentioned earlier, there is a possibility that you'll have to, let's say, make references to maybe some documents or maybe some methods that you are using within your data. And in that instance, the use of this hyperlink become important. I don't know if any of you have ever worked with, there is this statistical software, Smart PLS. You realize that even with the output that it gives you, all right, there are several, when you export to Excel, there are several worksheets, right? And they give you a navigation button so that you can easily move through the data that's it has given you. All right, so that's how you also work with it. And another important, let's say if you are working with maybe um, a company workbook, or let's say a report from a company, right, which is in an Excel form, and we have several tabs, all right, which is even overflow here. You can see that even with this, we are just seeing the tab for regression analysis for all business units, but there are other ones hidden over there. In that instance, you can just create a hyperlink to them so that even if you don't remember the where the worksheet is located, you can just click on the link to have access to it. Now, another way that we can also create hyperlinks is using the hyperlink function, just like I mentioned earlier. All right. So here we use the hyperlink dialog box box. All right, and you can also access that one using your control plus key. All right, so you take note of that one. Now, apart from this one also, we can also use the hyperlink function. All right, so let me just copy this and paste. So we can use the hyperlink function. Okay, so please, if you have any question, you can just let me know in the comment section so that I address it accordingly. Okay. So we can also use the hyperlink function. Now, we all know in Excel, we all know how to write functions, okay, even in our first lesson that we did. So, and I think we currently have a full lesson on hyperlinks on this channel, all right? So if you, when you are free, you can just take a look at it. That one goes, I think, takes time to explain each of them in details. So without this one also, you can to use the hyperlink function, with every function, you have to start with an equal to sign. All right, so you hit your equal to sign, then you type hyperlink. Sorry, so hyperlink. All right. So what the hyperlink does, it creates a shortcut or jump that opens the document shared on your hard drive, a network server, or on the internet. So the syntax for the hyperlink, so your file location, all right. So maybe my file location is let's say so let me use the Netflix link. So http, I don't know how it works. So let me just use www dot maybe netflix.com. All right. Then comma. Then a friendly name I want to use is Netflix. So Netflix. Let me see if this works. Okay. So it's not working. So let me just put it in. All right. So you can see that with using the hyperlink function, I've been able to create a hyperlink function to go to a website or a web page. All right, so you can see it over here in the formula bar. So equal to hyperlink, then into brackets your file location. Now in this instance, if let's say you were dealing with, let's say you want to open a file within your, maybe on your computer, then that one you can just copy the part of, let's say, your document, and that one will be your address. All right, so let me just copy one from mine and just paste it over here. So over here I can just come here, then I paste. All right, so you can see that over here I've pasted a new um file location. All right, then maybe I can change the name to So I can change the name to maybe Excel. So Excel for finance. All right. Immediately I hit enter, you can see that Excel for finance is over here. Right. And immediately I click on it, it opens, it opened for me. All right. So it, with Excel security note, because this is an external file, I'm getting this how do you call it, security notice. So if you trust it, then you can just continue. Okay, exactly. Now, so these are several ways that you can also create hyperlinks within Excel. Now, just like I mentioned, if you look at this data that I sent you, all right, hyperlinks were introduced in several ways. All right, because if you look at the dashboard for that they created, for instance, okay, so this is just for educational purposes. So looking at the dashboard created over here, immediately you hit on any of these over here, all right, it takes you directly to the sheet over here. And this is the same thing that we've just illustrated, just that there's been some formatting and designs over here, all right. Maybe I hope that as time goes on, we can just have other lessons to also go through how we can also create one of these dashboards and also learn about several other ones in the future. All right, so the next one that we also be looking at, right? So our next one that we'll be looking at from our table of contents that I shared earlier is data validation, advanced data validation. So in the first lesson that we did, the Excel of Finance Part 1, we talked about data validation. And if those on the call, I don't know if any of you joined, you realize that we made some basic introduction to data validation. All right. Now, with data validation, what it does is that it helps you restrict, let's say, entry into specific cells in your data, right? So that if you are looking to collect a specific type of looking to extract a specific type of collect a specific type of data, you can just restrict anyone entering the data to follow those rules, all right? And it's also very important because it helps in handling errors. So when even you even have access to the documents, you can't just type anything that you want, but rather you will have to follow suit with the instructions that are being given. All right. So with that one also, I'll be taking you to a different um, document that you'll be working, a different data set that you'll be working with, and that one is also in the document I sent. All right. So with the document that I sent, if you go into that document, you see that also over here. So let me just scroll down. So you see that over here. All right, my budget.xlsm. All right. So just like I mentioned, the data validation is a critical Excel feature that goes far beyond simple drop-down menus. All right. But you see that in the first lesson that we did, we talked about data validation. But our focus there mostly was just creating drop-down lists. And if you could remember, we created drop-down lists when we were learning about the lookup functions, the VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, and the HLOOKUP. All right. Now, so data validation, it helps control what users can enter into specific cells, serving as the first line of defense against incorrect, inconsistent, and improperly formatted data. All right. So whilst the basic one that we learned earlier, like restrictions, are commonly used, with the advanced one, it provides granular control over data entry, enable dynamic behavior, and can even integrate with other systems. All right. So as with this advanced one, the first thing you'll be looking at is that with data validation, that's with a drop-down list, we can even create multi-level drop-down lists. And with that one, that's where we introduce the indirect function. All right. It will help us to create a multi-level function so that maybe a drop-down list for, let's say, if we have, let's say, revenue, all right. If we select revenue in a particular cell or particular drop-down list, based on our selection from that drop-down list, it gives the appropriate list attached to that drop-down in the next or the adjacent cell, right, or even the cell that we define. So we'll go ahead and also look at those ones. Now, with the advanced data validation, we also go ahead and look at how we can also integrate other functions like the length function and the today function. All right. So with the length function, its basic purpose is that it helps us to know the limit or the length of, let's say, data that we've inputted in a specific cell. All right. Then the today function also gives us today's date. All right. So as we go ahead, we are going to look at all those things. Now, when we use it, we use the length function, um, let's say, combined with the data validation. What we are trying to do over here is that we are going to try and limit the length of text that you can enter into, let's say, a particular cell. So let's say if you've created, let's say, a worksheet that you want someone to use to collect phone numbers of, let's say, employees or clients. We know that phone numbers are 10 digits, but there can be the instance where maybe the person can enter 11, 12, or even lesser, 11, 12, or let's say higher numbers. Now, in this instance, what we are trying to do is that, in addition, using the learn function, in addition to the data validation, we are trying to limit the length of the text. So we limit it to 10 so that any number that the person enters above 10, the person will get a prompt to check the number or even enter it again. Then we also try and use the today's function to also prevent entry for future dates. So let's say if you want to record transactions, or you've created, let's say, an inventory Excel for someone to enter transactions in it. What we want to do with the today and the data validation function is that we want to limit the person from entering a future date. So let's say if a transaction is going on today, then maybe the person enters tomorrow's date. We don't want that one to happen. All right. So you can also use that. Okay. Then from there, we can also dive into the logical functions. All right. So let's move on to the the data validation. All right. So with that one also, we'll be using the my budget um, Excel data that I sent earlier. All right. Okay. So let me just share that one, then we can start with it. All right. So this is a basic Excel template that I created. Okay. So this is a basic Excel template that I created. Now, so I created this so that, let's say, personally, or let's say as an individual, you want to maybe track the transactions that you have in it, the transactions that, or let's say, the items you buy in a day based on the budget that you have. So you can just create a simple budget over here. So this is just a simple budget that I created. It's nothing giddy giddy bia, just so that we can work around it. Then I created um details of what we need for our transaction. So we have category over here. Then we have, so the category, we have income, expense, loan. Then with the category of expenses, I've listed some category of expense. So maybe if you have other ones that you want us to add, you can just put it down, then put it in the comment section. I'll just add it, then we work with it. Then we also have our checklist of income. So with the income, we have salary from employment, maybe income from your research works, gifts, gain on your investments. Maybe you have enough money, so you're able to give people loan, then you take some small interest on it. So that one is also there. Oh, Stephen, please, can you see it now? So please, someone should confirm for me if you can see it. I think Eben and Stephen say they can't see it. So then we also have loan. So maybe you take some loan from, let's say, express loan, quick loan, then maybe from a friend. Then you also have some bank accounts. Maybe you have 3 bank accounts. You have a Momo number. You have some investments that you have. And you also created. Okay. And I also created some section for payments of accounts. Now over here, what we are trying to do is that, all right. So over here, what we are trying to do is that we want to learn data validation, advanced data validation um, from this data set over here. So let's say you are the kind of individual that maybe everything that or the transactions that you have within it in every day you want to maybe record. All right. So in that instance, you have a transaction ID. So maybe you've created a transaction ID or you create one for yourself, then date, then the transaction type, then the name of item, the description, the category, unit, amount, payment method. Then we have the account. Now, what we are trying to do over here is that now when you record, you know the date, you enter the date that you bought. Now, since you want to work with a budget and everything concurrently, we've created a data validation over here that shows, okay, the item that you are entering, is it a loan, is it an income, is it an expense? Then you enter the name of the item, then you provide a small description. Then the category you specify. All right. Now you can see what I've done over here is that if I choose, let's say, income over here, all right. So kindly take note. So let me see if I can expand it a little. All right. So what I've done is that I think if you choose income over here, all right, income over here, and you come to category over here, because we are using multi-level data validation, you can see that we get the category of income that we specified over here, right? You can see that we see them as drop down list over here. And let's see what happens if we change it to expense. If we change it to expense, you can see we have the list of expenses also displayed over here. And we change it to, let's say, loan. You can see the various loan. So is it quick loan? Is it from a friend? Or is it a loan? Is it an express loan? All right. So that one is also there. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is that we are going to remove all these data validations, or let's create new one here. So let me just give it a color. All right. I hope the yellow helps. Then let me bold in the text so that you can see it. Now, over here, you can see that we don't have any drop down. We don't have any data validation over here. Now, if you don't know how to go about the data, or let's say the drop down list, the basic one, so kindly, when we are done, kindly take time and watch our previous lesson. All right, we went through that, so you please go through it so that at least you'll be able to understand it when you are working with this one. All right. So with this, what you are going to do, if you want to create a drop down list, all right, what you have to do is that you come to data over here. You see data. Then you come under data tools over here. You see data validation. This over here. So data validation. All right. So data validation. So you pick from a list of rules to limit the type of data that can be entered in the cell. So you hit data validation and you get this data validation dialog box over here. All right. And then there are a lot of stuff that you can do over here. Or better still, you can just use the keyboard shortcut Alt. So Alt plus A, sorry, Alt plus A plus V plus V. All right. So that's a keyboard shortcut that you can also use. So you take note of that one also, so that at least you can work faster. All right. Now, with the data validation also, I think you can just copy the formula. You can just copy it over here and paste it over here. But for the sake of those who can't go about with the basic one, let me just take you through. So here I hit Alt AVV. Sorry. Then I get my data validation dialog box. So I get my data validation dialog box. Then I choose list. All right. So we have various items that we can choose from, and we explain all of that in our previous lesson. So kindly watch it after this lesson. So when I come to list, so over here, then I have to choose the source of where I'm getting the list from. Then I'll come to my account details sheet over here. All right. I just hit on it. Then I'm under category. So let me see where I want to place it. So under transaction type, I know my transaction type is here. All right, it's a category. So I'll just select everything over here. All right, then I hit OK. Immediately I do that, you can see that I now have the data validation over here. All right. Now, before I continue, I wanted to show you this basic one before we move on. Now, to be able to work with the sorry, to be able to work with the multi-level sorting, this is where naming ranges also comes in, or naming cells comes in. So over here, right, you can see that I have this list of these details over here, right? But what the first thing you have to do is that you have to name all these you have to name all these details that you've placed over here, right? So with this one, we already have names for them. So I'll go to my formula that manage names and change everything or edit it. So what I'm going to do is that you can see that immediately I put my cursor on income, right? In our name box over here, sorry, in our name box over here, you are seeing A3, right? So we know how the names come about. So the column name and the row name A3. But this one, we have a range of data. So we want to select the range. Sorry. So this is the range. Now you can see that immediately I select the range, the name over here is category, right? But that's not the case. That will not be the case for your own. All right. So let me just remove it. Then we can just go about with it. Okay. So if I come to my formula over here, all right. If I come to formula, under the defined names, you see name manager. All right. So the name manager, it helps you create, edit, delete, and find all names used in your worksheet. All right. So remember that I've been mentioning defined names in our previous lesson. So if you want to see the names, the defined names in your worksheet, you can just come here. And immediately you click on it, the name manager opens. And you can see it gives us the name of the defined ranges and cells that we have, right? So you can see over here, I have the bank, I have category, I have expenses, I have investments. So what I'm going to do is that I'll get rid of everything, then we do everything from scratch, all right? So let me just delete everything. Okay, so now I can just close it. So now you can see that even if I select the entire category over here, I'm not seeing anything over here. So this is how you go about with the naming, all right? So I think with this one, I'll try and be fast about it because we dealt with it in our previous lesson, so that maybe we can beat time. All right. So what we do is that you select the range that you have. Oh, but before that, does anyone have any let's say expense or income that the person wants us to add? If you have maybe someone that you want us to add, then maybe we work with it. All right. So if there is, I'll just be looking through. If I see any, I'll just edit the list over here and put it in so that we can just uh, work with what you also have. Okay. So over here, I'll select the category range that I have over here. And to be able to name this range, I'll come to the name box, select the A3 which is showing over here, and I type a new name. So over here, I want to use category. So immediately I hit enter, you can see that right now a defined name is created. All right. So to be able to confirm a defined name has been created, let me come back to my name manager. Now you can see category over here. All right. You can see category over here. Okay. So let's do that for the others. So let me just select the utility. Okay. Oh, so let me change. Let me see. Let me add so the transfer. Let me do it. Okay, I think it's okay. So I'll select the whole category of expenses that I'm dealing with. All right. Then with that one also, I'll give it a name. So that one too is expenses, or let's say expense. Okay, then I'll hit enter. Then I'll come here, I'll do same for income. I'll name the income range. So I have income over here. Then over here, I have loan. Okay, then I have bank. Okay, so I have bank. Then here I just have one Momo number. So let me just add another Momo number. So this is telecell cash to make everything even. So 050506. So this one, immediately I hit enter, you can see the zero disappears. It turns to numbers, but I want to keep it as text. So I'll just put an apostrophe in front of the zero to turn it to text. All right. So that one I can also name that one. So that one is mobile money. So let me just do it. Okay, let me do it Momo. I think Momo is okay. Momo, okay. Then over here, let me change it to investment. So I'll name this investment. Now, after doing all this, okay, let's go back to the name manager and check. So you can see that now we've created these defined names, right? And this helps us. This is very, very important when you're dealing with multi-level data validation. So I'll just close it and come back to where we were working. All right. So now we have this over here. So let me just delete the ones that we already had. All right. So we created data validation. Okay. So let me it has been deleted. So right now, what I'm going to do is I want to enter, let's say, a transaction that we just did. All right. So maybe a transaction ID is maybe 000001. Then maybe all right, so you can see that. So this is something you should also. I think we dealt with it in our first lesson. I entered 001, but it has been changed to a date format. All right. So when you come here, you can see that it's been changed to a date format. So you can just select everything over here. All right, and you can just use sorry, you can use Control Shift 1 to change everything to to change it to number. So Control Shift 1 changes it from date to number, right? Okay, so we take note of that. But if it changes it to number, because we are using 001, that won't work. Okay, so it has to be text. All right, so let me just change it to text, then it works. So text can the text can take both numbers and characters, and even how do you call it, alphabets. All right, so I'll change it to text. Where is text? I'll change it to text. Then my 001. Okay. So you can see my 001 is working now. Right now with date, right? I want to use today's date. So currently in Excel, instead of just typing today's date, there is no need of typing today's date. Just hit Control semicolon. You get today's date. All right. And if you want to get the time as at now, use Control Shift semicolon. So that's control colon. That's give you your time as at now. So I think that's also something that you can also keep in mind. Now the transaction type. All right, transaction type. We've already created a data validation. So we select, let's say, income. All right. Now immediately I select income, you can see that I don't have any data validation over here, even with the category, the units, the amount, the payments, nothing. Nothing shows over here. All right. So we want to create a data validation at the category side. But first of all, maybe it's an income, so maybe it's let's say my June salary. So let's say June salary. So June salary. So maybe your um work. Okay, so description is work. So the category, right? And then now the category, I have to now select the category. Now, in that instance, though, the income salary, I know it's income from the work I do. But over here, you can see we have a tall list over here. So salary for employment, income from research work. So we want to also create a data validation for the category over here. But I want it to be based on what we choose over here. So in that instance, we bring up our data validation dialog box. So Alt AVV. All right. Then I select list. Now over here, all right, you remember that with the first one that we did, the first one we just came here and we selected the range that we want. But in this instance, if we select this over here, all right, so let me just select it and hit OK. If you select it, you can see that I'm getting it over here just like I want. But that's not exactly what we need. What we want to do is that if let's say we change it to expense, we want it to also reflect over here so that we get the expense category, but that's not happening over here. So in that instance, I have to also go back to my data validation dialog box. All right, then instead of the income, all right, I'll delete it and I'll use the indirect function. So equal to indirect, then into brackets. All right. So let me go back. So into brackets now, my first data validation is in cell C4. All right. So I enter C4 and I close it. But I have to make sure that I lock the column. All right. In our first lesson, we talk about absolute referencing. So that one, use F4. Or better still, you can just introduce a dollar sign here and hit OK. Now, immediately I do that, you can see that. So right now I'm dealing with income. So let me select the income. All right. And I have a data validation over here. So this is an income from employment. So I select it. So then let me just leave the rest. Okay. Or let me just enter it. So maybe the unit is one because salary there baba copy. Unless so you then maybe the amount is, let's say, 5,000. Then the payment option. So in this instance also, I want the payment method. So let's say with the payment method that I'm receiving that money, am I receiving it to my, let's say, my bank account to my Momo? All right. So in this instance, let's say I'm receiving it to my bank. All right. So in that instance, I want to use data validation. I don't want to be entering the bank every time because this is a transaction that I want it to be going for a very long time. So I'll be getting a very large data set. I don't want to be doing tedious work. All right. So I hope so far we are good with everything that's going on. Okay. So if you have anything, any concern, you just let me know or you prompt me. So back to what we are doing. So over here, so let me just touch on this. You can see that immediately I select any cell beneath the payment method. You can see that it gives us a pop-up menu that select the mode by which payment is made. All right. So this is something that you can also do with data validation, and we talked about it in the first lesson. So you kindly go back and also revise on that one. So here I want to create a new data validation. So Alt A VV. All right. So here I'm still dealing with list. Now over here, right? It's not the payment option is not dependent on whether it is a salary or income. So here I have to create a new list. So that one I want it to be based on uh, let's say the bank. All right, I want to base on the bank. So I'll select the bank account. Okay. Or no, so even with that one, I think okay, so let me just use the bank. So if I select the bank, now I have the bank over here. So I have Zenith, GCB, Cow Bank. All right, Zenith, GCB, and Cow Bank. All right. Now over here, all right, the account. Okay. All right, so I think let me just correct this because let's say if the payment comes in through, let's say, Momo, then in that instance this becomes useless. Okay, because we don't have Momo option over here. So the payment option can either be bank or Momo. All right. Now, so let me just correct it. Alt AVV, then list. Now you can see that over here we don't have. So you can see that over here we don't have a column showing or giving us bank and Momo. So what I'm going to do, you can type it manually. All right. So bank. So you separate them with comma. All right. So bank and Momo. Momo. Okay. Then I hit OK. All right. Now immediately I do that, you can see that I'm now seeing bank and Momo over here. So my salary comes in through bank. I'll select bank. Then the account. So I want this column over here also to be based, or the drop down list to be based on what is chosen over here. All right. So if it's a bank, I should be seeing only bank accounts. If it's Momo, I should be seeing only Momo numbers. So with that one, what I also do is that I open my data validation dialog box. Then I introduce the indirect function. So indirect. Then you know that the one that I want it to be dependent on is in cell I, so I4. So I introduce absolute referencing, right? So the first one we just typed. So this time let me just use the F4 so that we all can. So I4. So you hit L4 three times. F4 three times, then you can just close and hit enter. Immediately I do that, you can see I get, oh, sorry, I didn't introduce the equal to sign. So you can see these are some basic errors that you can be encountering. So you also take note of that. So I have to introduce, because it's a formula. So equal to indirect. Okay. So I'm good now. Sorry about that. So now if I select the bank, you can see that I'm seeing the bank account numbers. So let's see if we select Momo. If we select Momo, you are seeing our MTN Momo number and our Telecel number. So that's how that one also works. All right. So let me go ahead and let me enter some three transactions. Then we can also move on to how we can also do other stuff with data validation. So maybe I have transaction 002. So same today's date. Then maybe in this time it's not an income, but it's an expense. So you can see that I don't have the data validation being applied over here, right? So in that instance, I can just copy it and paste. All right, so I can just paste the formula. All right, so with that one, I think we talked about it also in our paste specials. Paste special, so where is formula? So I can just paste the formulas. Okay. Oh, it's not working. All right, it's not working. So let me just create data validation for everything over here. Then maybe we can just save ourselves the stress. Okay, so it's the list. Then the list is based on this over here. Then I can hit OK. All right. So now I have data validation applied to all of them. So here I want to go with expense. So with the expense, maybe I'm buying midnight bundle. So midnight bundle. So the description maybe whatever telecell data, maybe category. So over here too, I didn't apply the data validation to all of them, so I can just go ahead and apply it to the whole cells over here. All right. So I can do that also over here. Or better still, I can just bring my cursor here and drag down. But I don't want the how do you call it? The formatting should be to be over here. Okay, so let me just maintain this so that we can work faster. All right, so over here, telecell data is. So we can see that because I selected expense over here, I'm getting the expense category. Telecell data is, let's say it's airtime. All right, so maybe 2 units. Then how much telecell is like around, I think 6 cities. Then with this one, I'm paying with Momo. So over here too, I can just apply it down here. I don't think this isn't what I. All right, so over here, I'm paying with Momo. All right, a salary to Momo. So let me change the salary into bank. Maybe I take my salary from, let's say, Zenith. Then you can go ahead. Maybe if you want to add other things, you can go ahead. So here with the Momo, maybe I take my Momo. I paid from, because it's Telecel, I paid from my Telecel number, so I can just change this to Telecel. So this is how you can also work with multi-level data validation. Okay, so that's multi-level data validation. Please, if you have any concern, any question, you can just let me know so that we address it accordingly. All right. So the next one we'll be looking at is how we can also incorporate data validation to the length of, let's say, number centered. So over here, let me just come over here. I think here data validation isn't applied over here. So under um, the account, all right, I hope you can see it. So over here, what I'm going to do is that I want to create a data validation in this box, but this time I'm not going to use, let's say, a list or anything, but rather I'm using a formula. All right, I'm using a formula. So you can see from um, the theory that we did, theory that I sent earlier, that we can also use the data validation to limit the text that we enter in a cell. All right, and we can also use it to, let's say, stop people from entering future dates. So first of all, if you are dealing with a date, maybe because it's let's say a budget, right? We don't want a situation where maybe instead of entering today's date, then mistakenly you enter future dates. So over here, if you want to create data validation for that, I can also open my data validation dialog box. Then over here, instead of using a list that we used earlier, you come to custom. Immediately you come to custom, you can see this changes to formula. Then you enter the formula that you want, right? So over here, you can enter the formula. So maybe equal to, let's say, our date is in B7. So maybe equal to B7. Okay, B7 less than or maybe equal to today. So there's the formula that we are using. All right, so B7 shouldn't be greater than today. So if I hit OK, right now, with this one, we didn't create a drop down list, but rather we've set a data validation over here. So let's see if we enter today's date. Okay, so if we enter today's date, we are good. So let me see if we change it to, let's say, tomorrow's date. You can see that immediately we change it to tomorrow's date, we get a restriction over here that the value doesn't match the data validation description defined for the cell. All right. Now let's see if we enter, let's say, 20th and see what happens. So you can see that Excel stops us from doing that. So that's how you can also stop people from entering future dates. Okay. Now when it comes to the length, let's say if we are dealing with numbers, phone numbers, we don't want anyone to enter a number which is more than 10. All right. And that's where we introduce the length function. So the length function is used to, let's say, identify or pull out the length of a data within a cell. So over here too, we can also introduce data validation for that. So over here, we can go to custom, then our formula. So formula equal to len into brackets, let's say 10. Then I hit OK. So let's see what happens if I enter 10 numbers. So let's say 0546, 0554 So we have no problem with that. Now let's say if I enter 11 numbers, okay, it goes through. I mean, there's a problem with my formula that I entered. So let me just go back and edit it. Okay, so equal to, so my cell is J8. So J8 equal to J8 is equal to len maybe 10. So let's see if this works. All right. So over here, you can see that it doesn't go through, but it's giving us an error message that we created for these ones. So with that one, if someone enters, let's say, numbers which are more than 10, right? Instead of the person seeing that, you can also go back to data validation and type what you want the person to see. So over here, you can see select from drop down list. All right. You can come back over here, the error alert, and change it over here. So maybe you change it to maybe number cannot be more than 10. So maybe number should be 10 digits. Daily you hit OK, then that's what we see. So if we come here, you can see now we are seeing number should be 10 digits, and that's how we can also work with data validation. That's the multi-level, then using it in addition to the len and the today function. All right. So please, if you have any concern with the first two that we've done, you can just alert me so that I take it back or I throw more light on it. Now, the next one that I want us to look at is the logical functions. All right. Now, with the logical functions, we know several of them, and I think most of us are familiar with the if function, the nested if function, and we also have the if function. I think those who have take time to look at the Excel lessons on this platforms have had access to go through those lessons. Now with the logical functions, okay, so I'll go straight to the document so that we can also see those ones. Now with the logical functions, this is how they also are. Okay, so apart from the if and the nested if and the ifs function, we can also use them in addition to the and or functions. All right. So in the and or function, apart from just using them as jar, we are just introducing those ones so that we can enter more conditions. All right. So if you look at the if function serve as a functional building block for logical function in Excel, enabling users to create dynamic formulas that respond to varying conditions at its essence, and if functions relate whether a specific condition is met or not. All right. Now, we'll go straight to the and or function. Then we also look at how we can incorporate all of them into, let's say, a formula. All right. So with that one also, we have the data over here. We have the data over here in the document. So if you have it, you can have access to it. Then we also have some tasks that you can also complete. So I'll go through about two of them. Then you also, when we are done, you can also take the third and fourth one. Then you can also have a look at it. Now, with the end function, okay, the end function is one of the Excel fundamental logical function used to test multiple conditions simultaneously. So with the end function, if it's used in conjunction with the if function, first of all, the if function is looking at conditions. So if we introduce the end function, then we are looking at more than one condition, right? And both conditions should be met before it can return, let's say, a true value. And if both conditions are not met, it returns a false value, all right? So even if one is met, it returns a false value. Now, with the end function, we have its basic syntax over here, right? Then there are some key characteristics about the end function that we should know, right? It returns a Boolean value. So it returns either a true value or a false value. And it can work with all types of values that we have. So it can work with the numbers, text, date, and other functions, all right? Then, as you can see, its characteristics mostly nested inside if. So when we have another function in another function, that's why we call it nested. All right. That's why we have multiple nested. So we have nested functions, so multiple if function. Now the and the logical function is very important because we can use them, or the common use for them is in inventory management, HR systems, and financial models. All right. So when we go into our data, you also have a look at that one. Then we also have the or function. Now, unlike the end function, where we are looking at two or more conditions simultaneously, with the or function, we are also doing same. But in this instance, if we introduce the or function and just one condition is met, all right, it returns a true value. All right. So you can see, unlike the end function that requires all conditions to be true, or returns true if a single condition is met. All right. And it has some key characteristics over here that we can also look at. So we'll go straight into our data. Then we can also see what we can do within our data. So we have several tags. So with the tags, the first one we'll be looking at is we will check bonus eligibility check. So we have employee data, all right, based on their performance and the work they've done, and we want to see if a specific employee is eligible for bonus. We also want to see if the employee's salary is high or it's standard. All right. Then we can also go ahead to see if a department, or let's say if the department is receiving a bonus. All right. So with that one, we also use the if function in condition with the and all functions to do that. All right. So without much ado, go straight to um that one as well. Okay, so let me just go to our. All right. So with that one also, this is the data that we'll be using, and I shared those ones with you. All right. So you can see them over here. Now, this is what we are working with. So let me just delete some. Now, we have these data sets over here, all right? So these data are this employee data sets. So we have employee IDs, the departments that they work, their salary, all right? Then you have the number of years they've worked. Then we have their KPI score, that's their key performance indicator scores. Then whether they're eligible for bonus or not, their salary level, their experience level, their department bonus. So over here, I'll just do the first two, then maybe you also look at, or you can also go through the other ones. But I think I'll also go through the department bonus since that one, the criteria is a little complicated. So over here, all right, we want to check if a specific employee is eligible for bonus. All right. Now with that one, we are saying that the person's key performance indicators should be higher than 80. All right, the key performance indicator should be higher than 80, and the person should have been in the company for 3 years and beyond. All right, for 3 years and beyond. So, first of all, where we are going to reintroduce our if function, so equal to if into brackets. Now, over here, we are looking at two conditions, right? And both conditions should be met before we can say someone is eligible for bonus or not. So here we introduce the end. So end, then into brackets. All right. Then our logical one. So our logical one is that their key performance indicators should be 80 and above. So key performance indicator over here. So because when I'm down to be able to drag down, then I'll lock the column. So I hit F4 3 times. Then comma. Right. The logical two is that their their years of service should be greater than 3, right? So the years of service, that one to our lock it should also be, sorry, this one should be greater than or equal to 80. Sorry. So the key performance indicator shouldn't be less than 80, so 80 and above. Then the years of service should also be greater than or equal to 3 years. All right. Then comma. So this is our condition. So we can see we've put two conditions. So we've nested the n in the if function. So two conditions. Condition one, the KPI should be 80% and above. Then two, the years of service should be greater than 3. So in that instance, if all conditions are met, then the person is what? Eligible for bonus. Eligible for bonus. And if it's not met, so value if false, it's not eligible. So not eligible. Then I close my brackets. Where is it? Okay. Then I hit enter. So immediately I hit enter, you can see that I get it. So it means that employee with employee ID 001 is eligible for bonus, right? Then if I want to know for the rest, I can just bring my cursor here, double tap to get everything, right? So you can see that this function is very, very important because this instance we are dealing with about 350 employees, and to be very difficult to go through individually to be able to do that. So that's where the nested if and the end and or function also come to play. All right. So that's how we go about with that one also. Now, with the salary level, we also want to know if their salary is either high or low. All right. So in this instance, this is just a basic if function. So I know most of us can easily do that. All right. So with that one, I'll just do the first one and I'll leave the rest so that when you are practicing, you can also look at those ones. Okay. So with the next one, okay. So equal to, so if, now the condition was that if it is high, then it means that their salary is above, okay, so maybe the salary is above 80,000. All right. So the salary, which is C, so I'll lock the column, is greater than or equal to 80,000. And if it is, then it means the salary is high, or if it's not, then it is standard. All right, so that's how we can also go about with that one. Now let's look at how we can also incorporate the end and or function. All right. So with that one, let's move on to the department bonus check. All right. So with this one, we are looking at multiple departments. All right. So here we want to look at how we can also work with the end and the or function. Now in this instance, you can see that we use the end function, but we could have also used only the or function. Let's see what happens if we use the or. So you can see that still this is eligible, but most of them change because if just one condition is met, then it means the person is eligible, which shouldn't be the case. So let me just bring it back. Okay. So over here, you want to also see how we can also incorporate the or function. So we go ahead and enter our function. So equal to if into bracket. So since we are looking at two departments, all right. So let's say or into brackets. So the first department has to meet two conditions, which is so it has to be two conditions. So the first department we are looking at is sales department. So the sales department, as you can see over here. And the next one you look at is the IT department. All right. So if so and because we'll be looking at two departments concurrently. So the logical function. So if the department is equal to sales, comma, and their KPI score. All right. So over here, I don't even need to type department. So if here is equal to sales, so I'll lock it. So it's equal to sales department, comma, and their KPI score is not less than 75. It's not less than greater than or equal to 75, comma. All right. Then we can also go ahead and introduce another department. So and then we can also introduce the next conditions. Now you can see you are seeing multiple ends over here. So let me explain. So this end over here, right, is introduced because we are having two conditions over here. We have this condition one, then we have this condition two. That's why you have this. And the next one that we are introducing to, we have two conditions that have to be met. All right. Okay. So if the same department is greater than or equal to, let's say, let me change to 85. Sorry. So we are talking about a department. So maybe let's use IT. So IT, comma, and their KPI is greater than or equal to 80, or let's say 85, comma. Then now we can go ahead and type our value if true. All right. So let me see. I've closed it for this. Okay. So the value if true. Right. So what's the value if true? So then we pay bonus to that department. Sorry. So pay bonus, comma. Then if it's not, then no bonus. So let me make sure I've closed all the brackets. So one. All right. Then I can hit enter. Okay. 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 All right. So immediately I hit enter. You can see I get there is also no bonus for the finance department because I didn't incorporate finance in our formula. All right. So immediately I double click, you can see. So this sales department over here will be receiving bonus. All right. But I can see this sales department here will not be receiving bonus because their KPI is less than 62. So we learned how to freeze panes also. So if you are scrolling on to see, you can just freeze those panes. And same for this sales over here, bonus because their KPI is 92 higher than the 85 that we used. Okay. So that's how we can also incorporate the and the or function in conjunction with the if function. All right. Okay. So I hope that one is also clear. All right. So if it isn't, you just let me know so that I can go ahead and also explain that one also. Now, let me also I think that one is okay. Otherwise, I would have also create entered functions for the promotion readiness. So that one we also have the criteria. So the person should be ready, or let's say eligible for promotion. And the person should have been in the company for more than 5 years and have a KPI score of 90. And that one we can also do that. If that's the case, then maybe the person is ready. If that's not the case, then the person is not ready. Okay. So the next one that we'll be looking at based on our based on our table of contents is the index and match function. But with the index and match function, you can see in our lesson that I've provided a link to a video that we already have on this channel. All right. So to save time, that's why I did that. So you can see the index and match over here. All right. So let me just. So you can see the index and match over here. This over here. All right. So the lesson you can watch it on this channel. It's a very detailed lesson where we went into the index function. We also went into the match function. Then we also learned the combination of the index and match function. Now, these are functions that are very powerful. It's also a lookup function like the get function and the other VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP functions. All right. So you kindly take time and also watch that one. And looking at our time now, I think since we already have that over there, then we also move on to the learn and the trim function. Since that one is a new one, we are just introducing. All right. So the learn and the trim function, all right. So they are functions that help us mostly in data validation. Sorry, mostly in data cleaning, right? They are very important in data cleaning. It also helps us in several ways, right? So these are little less common, but certainly very sophisticated formulas because with the learn and trim function, we mostly don't even hear about them. Okay, but they are very important functions that we also have to take note of them. Now, these applications are great for financial analysts that need to organize and manipulate large amounts of data. Okay, so the learn function counts the number of characters in a string. So let's say if you're having Excel that contains numbers, the learn function is used to count the numbers. So if you remember, that's the same function that we introduced with the data validation. Okay. So the syntax is just equal to learn then into bracket text, as simple as that. All right. Then we have some key features of the learn function. Okay, we have some key features of the learn function. Now, with the features, it's used for absolute precision. So we can count every single character. It's also space sensitive, meaning if we are counting, it treats the space as a character and it also counts the space in addition, right? And it works with direct text, cell references, and formulas. Now, or let's say we might ask that, okay, if we are just counting the text, or let's say the characters in a cell, then what's the benefit of knowing such function, right? So we can use it to check the basic length. We can also use it for dynamic analysis, all right? So in the dynamic analysis, we introduce it with the trim function. That's why I place those two together, right? So the true length without extra spaces can also be looked at using the trim function, all right? Now, before we go on and look at how we can also work with those one, let's just move straight to the trim function. So while the length function is counting the length of the characters within a cell, in addition to the spaces, the trim function remove all extra spaces from text except for single space between words. All right. So if there are double spaces, it will remove them. So that's why it's very important for data cleaning. Because if let's say you download the data from a website, let's say financial data from a website, right? Mostly most of them are even we download it in CSV format. And after exporting them to Excel, there are some instances where the data might be clumsy and you have to clean them. There might be extra spaces, maybe some characters will not be looking at how you want. So you can also introduce the upper and the lower functions to also clean all those data. And the trim function play a key role in that. Now, apart from that, okay, the trim function, it doesn't alter legitimate spacing, okay, meaning with the actual legitimate spacing, it's just one spacing. So if it is two, you just clear one. Then it removes non-breaking spaces, all right, and it is critical for consistent lookup and comparison. All right. Now, what are some of the uses of the trim function? Now, the trim function is for basic data cleanup, just like I said. So you can see this example by here. We have trim into brackets, Excel function, but we can see there's a space after the Excel, and there's a space, so a space before the Excel, a space after the Excel, and it's corrected it. Then we also have this data over here. We have John Smith, right? But actually, it was John, small letter, then Smith, big letters, right? So with Excel, most of the functions they move hand in hand. So you can see the proper function over here being nested in the trim function. So that's how that also works. Then we can also combine it with the clean function. So in Excel, we also have the clean function, all right, for full sanitization. All right, so if you look at this example over it removes spaces and non-printable chart characters. So if let's say we are having some non-printable characters like let's say emojis and all those stuffs, it also removes the clean function removes them. Then we can also use them in conditional formatting. So that's the learn and the trim function can be used in conditional formatting. So with that one, looking at this formula, it is showing us it gives either true or false. So true if extra spaces exist, and false if there are no extra spaces. All right. So we'll go ahead. Sorry. So we'll go ahead and look at how we can also work with those ones in Excel. All right. So with that data set also, I think I forgot to introduce to bring that one in um, the data that we had. But I think they are also very important. So when I'll share that one, I'll share a link to that one also in the chat so that we can all have it. So let me just open that one. All right, so this is the one that we are working with. Or is it the same one? Okay, so I hope you can see this new. Oh, okay, it's not showing. Okay, so it's right. Yes, it is. All right. So we have these data sets over here. We want to introduce the learn and the trim function to work around them. So first of all, we are going to do is that the basic one that we look at is we are going to see how we can also use the learn function to look at the length of, let's say, the text in maybe B2, which has the John Doe. So we are just looking at the length. So over here, the basic syntax equal to len. All right. Then we select it. Then we hit enter. So you can see that the length is 11. 11. But if you look at John Doe, the actual characters plus the legitimate spacing should give us 8, meaning there are some extra spaces that we don't even need. All right. So in that instance, we can go ahead. Okay, so let me just bring it down. So you can see it has counted the characters in the cell, and take note the length function also counts additional spacing within the cell. All right, excluding the legitimate spacing. Now let's look at what happened if we use the trim function. We mentioned that the trim function, what it does is that it removes extra spacing from text within a cell. So let's look at what happened with the trim function. So here we are using the trim. So let me just write it over here. So with the trim function, so equal to trim into brackets this, and I can go ahead and enter. Now you see that immediately I use the trim function, yeah, I can see that I'm getting a proper arrangement of the name. Because you can see over here there are some spaces. So there are some spaces before the gene and all those stuffs. But this is giving me a correct arrangement, removing all the unnecessary data, unnecessary spaces from it. Now let's see if we check it again and let's see what happens. If we check the length, so equal to, so the length into brackets, now we are using G2. So you can see that now the length has reduced to 8. So 8, so you can see Jane 4 letters, Do 3 letters, 5, sorry. So that's giving us 7, then a legitimate space in 8. All right. Now, instead of doing it, we can also introduce or nest the trim function in the length function. All right. So that we can also get the actual length after trimming without trimming first. You can just use equal to, then length into bracket trim. So we trim it first, then we look at the length. So you hit enter. Oh, sorry, I have to add additional space and additional brackets. Okay, then B2, and I hit enter. You can see that now I'm getting the length of the character after the trim, or after removing the unnecessary spacing. All right, so you can see this is very, very necessary when we are dealing with um we are cleaning data. All right, so let me just clean and right there. The equal to sign is very important. Okay, so let me, this is the actual. Let me use actual. So actuals. So let me just provide a space over here. So space, you just highlight Control Shift plus, then you get it. Okay. So now what we also want to do is that we also want to see if a particular data is cleaned or not. So just like I said, the Excel formulas, you can combine multiple and they work perfectly. So with this instance, we can just see if, let's say, this data is cleaned or not, if there is a need for cleaning. So let's say if you download the data from a website, right? Maybe you looking at the data like this, you might think, oh, there's nothing wrong with this data. But you can use these functions to check if they need cleaning, right? Whether it necessitates cleaning. So in this instance, what I can do is that we can also use the if function in addition to the trim to see if they need cleaning or not. All right. So over here, I can just introduce my if function. So equal to if, so equal to if into brackets, if into brackets. All right. And I'll go ahead and introduce my trim. So what I'm going to do is that I'll first trim it, then I'll compare it to this and see if it needs cleaning or not. So equal to, let's say, trim into brackets A2 bracket close. Is it equal to the actual A2? So that's the, so this is the logical test, right? And if it is, right, if it is, then it is clean. And if it's not, then maybe I can say it needs cleaning. All right, and I can hit enter. Okay, okay. Let me see. So equal to trim. Okay. So I needed some carry brackets. So over here, you can see that the first one, so if I get rid of this, you can see that, so this one I'm just checking. So this is just a check that I'm doing. So let's say I've downloaded a data and I'm just doing some checking, right? Or let's say I exported this data. I exported the data from a different software to Excel. I have to check whether the details are intact. And it's also very important when you are, let's say, working with statistical models or financial modeling. So over here, you can see that this needs cleaning because there are issues with it. If I drop down, you can see that almost everything over here needs cleaning. All right, almost everything needs cleaning. So in that instance, I can clean it. So I can go ahead and do this, say the actual, sorry. So maybe full name. So right now, let's say I want to do the full name. So that's why I can also introduce the trim function. All right. So equal to trim into bracket. Then I select my A2 and I hit enter. So I'm again and see. So let me just copy this formula over here, paste it. Oh no. The formula doesn't want to formula. Okay. So let me just copy this formula and paste it over here. So immediately I copy the formula and paste it over here, you can see that it's clean, right? Because it picks the new values. Sorry, that's not what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with B. So I'll just edit it and I hit enter. So no, so the new one is H. Sorry, the new one is H. H. So that this is the one, the new one that we did. So let me just give it. So this is the new one that we did. All right. So you can see that after introducing the trim function, after introducing the trim function, you can see that now it is clean. All right. So with the first instance, it needed cleaning, but now it's clean. All right. Now what we can also do again is that we can also check. All right. We can also check if there are extra spacing. All right. We can also check if there are extra spacing. In that instance, we can also use the same if function. All right. You can also use the same if function in addition to the len function. All right. And that's how you can also use those functions. Okay. Now we also move on to the right, left, and the mid function. All right. But before that, if there are any concerns, kindly let me know so that I will also address those ones as well. Okay, so one more thing, let me also show you this. Now, you can see that even with this, all right, if let's say we want to just pull out the first names of each employee over here, right? After cleaning the data, we can do so, all right? Or even before cleaning the data, we can also do so. All right. Now, how we are going to do that is that with this one, then we introduce a new function, which is the find function. All right. So the find function. Now, this is how we go about that one also. So let's say we have this. So let me just do it over here. So control. So let's say the first name. Now with the first name, okay. Here we introduce some of the new functions. That's why I wanted us to look at those ones before we come back. All right. But with that one, we still use functions like the left function and the find function. So let me just pause on that one. Then when we are done with those one, then we come back and look at that one also. Okay. Now with the left, right, and the left function, there are also functions that are very important when it comes to working with financial data or financial modeling. Those ones are also very important. So you have to also get the basics. Maybe most of us might not be familiar with those ones, but it's also very important to know them. All right. So we'll go straight to our notes and we also look at how that one also works. Now, with the left, right, and trim functions, I also have their data in the document that we can also look at. So these three text functions, so they are text functions, okay? They are essential for extracting specific portions of strings in Excel. All right. So with that one also, what it does is that it can measure. So what it does is that it measures full length, full name length. You can trim and measure the clean name length. You can check if trimming changes the name when it is combined with the if function. It can detect unnecessary spaces. Oh, sorry. So this is for the the trim function. Sorry about that. So this is what we can use the trim function for. Now, with the left function, these are text functions. So what the left does is that it extracts characters from the beginning of a string word. All right. So it's possible that maybe we might have, let's say, a timestamp. So we know with a timestamp, mostly it comes with the date, the time. All right. So if we want to just extract the time from it, then that's where these text functions becomes important. If let's say we have, let's say even with our student ID, we have a list of student ID, maybe SB, ACC, 20, then maybe 0046. Now in that, we can extract, let's say, the program that the person does. So we have a list of them. We can just extract those ones and we can know that, okay, these are HRM students without focusing on the whole index number. So that's where the left or the text functions come in. So with the left function, the syntax is just this. So left equals, so the text and the number of characters that you want to extract, right? Now, if you use the left into bracket, the text without specifying the number of characters, the default is 1. So we are just pulling out one character. All right. Now, the common uses is that it helps in extracting area codes from phone numbers. So let's say we are dealing with a huge sum of, let's say, client database, and we have several, how do you call it, several numbers with different country codes. We can use the left function to extract only the country codes from it. Right. And this is where it becomes very important and handy. We can also use it to get initials from people's name. Right. Now, let's say we have full names of clients and want to just use their initials. We don't have to manually be typing. Maybe if it is Kojokoto, then maybe KK, then we type KK. No, the left function can help us do that. All right. Then it can also help us in pulling product code from product IDs. So, for example, these are some of the examples. If we have Microsoft and want to pull out the first 5 characters, which is MI, micro, we can just enter this and we get micro, right? If you have, let's say, some values in a cell and want to put the first three, so A, so left, then maybe the cell number, then we can put 3 over there. The 3 means the number of characters we want to extract. Then we also have left, then we can also um, use it in combination with the find character. So with the find, we are finding a specific number. So with the len into bracket B2, comma, find this, then B2 minus 1. So this one we are extracting a word from a sentence. All right. So what it does is that the find over here, what it does is that if it looks into the cell B2, it should find where the space is. So when it finds the space, that it means we are extracting those numbers after the space. All right. So find words in a sentence. Then we can also use it to find username from emails. All right. So over here, what it does is that it looks inside cell B2. Let's say cell A2 contains list of email addresses. All right. It contains list of email addresses. Then we can also use this function. So what the find finds where the at symbol is, because anything after the at is the domain name. So where the at is, and it extracts all the usernames after that at. So for here to obtain, it extracts or obtains the first word after, or sorry, before this space. Okay. Now with the right, if you look at the left extracts it from the beginning of the sentence, then the right extracts it from the end. So it counts backwards. All right. So that's how that one also looks. So if you look at these examples over here, so let's say if you have right to the analysis, comma 4. If you look at analysis, the last 4 characters, that's what this formula will extract. And if you look at the last 4 digits of the content of A2 is what it will also extract. All right. And you can also use to find the last word in a cell. Then with the mid extract characters from the middle of a string. So that's how that one also works. All right. So let's look at how we can also work with that one in Excel. Okay. So I think with that one, we already have the Excel file in the document I sent. So you can also open it and work along. So where is that one? Okay, so that one is here. So let me open that one, then we can work with that one. Okay, so we have these data sets over here. All right. So this is a data set, employee data set. All right. So we have the employee ID, we have the full name, we have their department, their code, their email address. So over here, you can see that we have several. Let me just delete this, then we can work with it. Okay. So over here, you can see that we have um, employee ID over here. Now, so over here, the 2025 you are seeing over here was extracted from the employee ID. So let's say every employee, the year that you are employed, that year is added to, let's say, your ID. So you can see the first one was employee 2025-001. So 2025 was the person we employed, and that was his employee ID. So in that instance, even just with the employee ID, if we want to extract employees that came in 2025, we can use the mid. Now, mid, because you can see over here, the 2025 is in the middle of, let's say, a word, or let's say middle of a sentence, all right? So not a sentence necessarily, a word. So over here, we can use the mid function. Now with the mid function, so equal to mid. So this is how the syntax also looks like, equal to mid. So the first one will be the text, then the start number, and the number of characters, all right? Okay, so here, the text that we are looking at from is the employee ID, then comma, then the start number, where the position of where the year is starting from. It starts from, so if we count, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's starting from number 4, comma. Then the number of characters we are looking at is 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4. And we can close our brackets and hit enter. Immediately I do that, you can see I'm getting the I've extracted the year from the employee ID. All right. So that's how that one also works. So let me just introduce a dollar sign to log that. So you see, immediately I drag down, I'm getting the years. So let me just change one. So let me change this person's here to 2024. Let me change this to 2022, and let's see what happens. Now, immediately I change to, you can see that the years has also changed. So if just from the employee ID, if I'm using the mid function, I can extract the year that the person was employed. So that's how powerful the mid function is also is. Now, over here, all right, if you want to find the first name from the full name over here, all right, so over here, what we are doing is we are finding the full name, the first name from the full name, all right, and in that instance, we combine maybe two or more functions. So the first one we are going to combine is the left function. The left, because we said the left finds the characters from the beginning, or the word from the beginning over. All right. So here the first name is Gregory. Right. So we can use the how do you call it, the left function and the find. All right. So as you can see over here, that's what we've used over here. All right. So we just use it in conjunction with the find function. So over here, so equal to left into brackets. So b2 b3 comma, then find. So in b3, what are we finding? We find the space comma, then b2 close minus 1. So immediately we enter that function, the learn and define function. You can see that we've gotten the first name for the first name for this employee. So when we drag down, you can see that we have the first name for all the employees. So that's how important the find and the left function also is. All right. Now over here also, you can see that we extracted it from the code. All right. So over here we have this code over here. What we are doing is that, let's say the last three digits that we have. So the last three digits is 395 over here. Let's say it represents something. So let's say maybe it represents the area code, or maybe a specific code that the employee have. So from this code, instead, if we want to get just that for every employee, there is no need for us to enter it manually. So in this instance, what we are going to use is the write function, right? Because I want to extract it from the end. Okay, so let me go ahead and delete this. So equal to the write. So then the text is over here, then comma. then the number of characters I want to extract from the end, which is 3. So 3, I can just hit enter. You can see that from this, I've extracted the last 3 digits. And that's how you can also use the write function. All right. So with the department, okay, so I think those ones we can do that ourselves. So when you have the data, you can just pull those ones out yourself. So over here, what we are going to do is that now let's say we have several domains. Over here, let's say this data was generated for educational purposes on. That's what you are seeing at company.com. So let's say we had multiple, maybe at Gmail, at Yahoo, at Outlook, maybe then at maybe ucc.edu.gh. They want to extract only the domain names from it. All right. And in that instance also, that's where these functions also come to play. All right. So we can also use those functions to do that. And with the usernames also, we can also use these functions. So with the username, you can just use the um how do you call it, the left and the find function. All right. So in this instance, if we come here, we can just copy this function. Sorry, Control C. Then I'll just paste it over here and I'll edit it. All right. So if I edit it, I want to pull it out from, so E3. So I want to pull it out from E3. Then I want to find, what I'm finding is not a space, but rather the at sign. So my at sign, and I hit enter. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a mistake over here. Okay, because I think I introduced, okay. So what happened was I introduced a space after the at. You can see that I have the username of the emails also. Now with the company name, that's where it comes a little trickier. Because with that one, we have to introduce a lot of them. So that one, we use the mid function in addition with the end. All right. So just like extracting the username, we find where the at is, right? And now we are not looking at the ones before the at, but rather after the at. All right. So that's where we do it +1. Okay. +1. Then the length also comes in. All right. So that's how we can also work with the length, the right, left, and the mid function. So they are very, very important. So we should also take notes of those ones. So at this point, if you have any issues or concerns, you can also raise them so that I address it. So the last thing I want us to look at is, I think our time is fast spent. The last thing I want us to also look at is the handling errors. All right. Now, when it comes to handling errors, also there are two main functions that we can use. We have the is error function, and we have the if error function. All right. So if you look over here now, the is error functions provide an elegant way to handle errors in formulas by returning custom value when an error is detected. All right. Now, let's say we have a specific data, and let's say we multiplied a specific data, mostly in conditional formatting. We wanted to return a specific value, but that value isn't available, so it returns NA. Now, this instance, we don't want it to return NA, but rather we want to return maybe not, let's say not found, or maybe finished, exhausted, or doing those stuffs. So in that instance, that's where we introduce the the if error function. All right. So the if error function, as you can see over here, it operates through a stage uh, evaluation process. Okay, two-stage valuation process. So the first one, we have the primary evaluation. Then the second one, we have the fallback mechanism, right? So the primary evaluation, it attempts to execute the main formula. Then with the fallback mechanism, if an error is detected in stage one, immediately returns the specific alternative value without completing or full calculation. So we take note of now. Now, the errors that the if error can handle, all right? So it can handle all the 7 Excel errors. So we know the errors. We can see NA, not available, then wrong data type, that's the value, then the ref, div 0, divisible by 0, number, name, and the now, right? So in this instance, in situations where legitimately it's returning an error, we can use an if error function to give it a specific, let's say, text instead of just appearing NA or value. Okay. Now, so this is the syntax. So if error, then the value. So let me just, okay. So if error, then the value, then comma, then the value if error, right? Then practical application. So VLOOKUP error handling. So you realize that in our first lesson, when we're doing VLOOKUP, there are some situations where if the lookup is not found, right, it returns, let's say, NA. In this instance, if we introduce the if error in addition to the VLOOKUP, instead of returning NA, we can maybe put there not found. All right, you can put there not found. Or maybe if we are dealing with, let's say, inventory, maybe if it is the inventory is finished, maybe we can put there out of stock instead of just having 0 or let's say um, an error over there, right? Now, we can also use it for division operations. All right, so let's say, for example, we are dividing two values in the cells. Instead of just doing it straight ahead, if there is a possibility of it returning an error, right, we can use the if error function. Now, there are several advantages to using the if error function, right? So it reduces formula complexity, it provides consistent error massaging, and it maintains spreadsheet aesthetics. Then we have the is error function. Now the is error functions, it helps us to test whether there is any error value in our data, and it returns either true or false. So when it is true, then it means we have error values in our data, and if it is false, it means we have no error values in our data. All right. So with that one, it also works with all error types, and it is often used with if for conditional handling. All right. So for conditional error checking, for error counting, and for data validation as well. All right. Okay. So with that one also, without much ado, we go into ethics. So it shouldn't take much of our time. Then maybe it's past 9. Then maybe we can also call it a day. All right. So I'll get. So let me just bring up the data that we'll be using. Then we can just work around it. Then we can call it a day. But please, if you have any question, feel free to leave it in the comment section, or you can just reach out to us. I think we have our emails available then, or you can even speak to Doc. Then Doc will just let us know and address it accordingly. Okay, so back to our lesson. All right, so for the to illustrate how the if error and the is error works. All right, now over here we have several we have some, let me say, basic inventory data, right? So we have the product ID, the product name, the regions, the unit sold. Then we also have the, how you call it, the total revenue. All right, so total revenue, let me just, okay. All right, so over here we want to check. All right, so we want to check if there are any errors within these computations over here. All right, so here we can just use the S error, so equal to S error. Okay, S error. So the S error, what it does is that it check whether a value is an error and returns true or false. So here we want to check if there are errors in our total revenue. All right, then we hit enter. So you can see that false. False means that we don't have any errors here. So take note that the S error returns only Boolean values, either true or false. So you can see that we don't have any errors within our data. But over here, good. So over here, you can see that we have some errors over here. Okay, we have some errors over here. We have some errors over here. We have the divisible by 0. We have the value error over here. All right, good. Now, let me just try and pull those ones up and see. Or let me just come here and work around it. Now, over here, so you can see that we are getting divisible by 0 errors. All right. So these are some of the errors that we can correct them using the if error function. All right. So let's say in situations where we are multiplying, let's say, I want to see situations where we can just get an error, then we work around it. Okay, I'm not getting, so you don't worry. Let me just compute the actual values of total revenue. Then we can scroll down and see if we have some errors in our data. Okay. Okay. All right. So if we check using this, we can see we are not getting any errors over here. But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new column over here and compute the new total revenue and see if the figures over here are correct. All right. So equal to so new tr. Okay, so equal to this times this. Okay, so we are seeing we are getting the same figures, but in the situation where we want to introduce the if error, then in that situation, what we are going to do is that we are going to put equal to if error into brackets. So the value if error. So now the value if error that we are looking at, we open a bracket, which is d2 times e2. Then we close the bracket, comma. Then if there is an error, so if there is no error, it returns this value. But if there is an error, then it should let's say return maybe not found. So maybe not found. Okay, so I hit enter. All right, then I can just scroll down. All right, so I can see that there are no errors over here. Now let's see a situation where instead of a value, I put a text. So let's say I put good over here. Now you can see that over here, all right, there should be an error because we can't multiply a text and a number. So there should be an error. But instead, I've used the if error function and introduced that if there is an error, it should return not found. If there is no error, they should return this. Or instead of this, I can just put error. Right? Error. Then you can see that over here. And you can see that with the error function, immediately it detected an error, right? It changed from false to true. So that's how these errors works. Then over here, to handle this error also, if we don't want it to show, let's say value, we want it to show, let's say error, then we can also introduce the if error function. So if error, so value, if there is no one, if there is an error, it should returns error. It shouldn't just bring not that error message. Okay, error message. Good. So we can see that now it's error F4. Okay, so you can see that over here, right? Now instead of the value error, I've defined it, I've given it a new name, which is the error. But one thing you have to take note is that if we use this, you can see that now this has turned to the false, right? Because it's not seeing an error over here. Okay, because previously, if let's say we see the actual Excel, it sees the actual Excel errors, you can see that it is true. So equal to, you can see that it's true. All right, so this is how you can also use both the S error and if error function. And these are very, very important. So you should also take time to look at it and also find time to go through this data and also practice it so that at least you can you can already or always be equipped with it. All right. So I think this will bring us to the end of today's lesson. All right. So I think if you already have the document, you can go through, and if you have any challenges or if you need any formulas or further explanations, you can reach out to Doc, or let's say you can reach out to us. And this video is also recorded, so it will be on the channel. And I also entreat you to also look at, since we didn't go much details into the index and match function, it's also very important function that you can also learn. So kindly take time to watch that video. And as time goes on, there will be further Excel videos on this channel. We also look forward to introducing some new lessons on this platform, especially when it comes to financial analysis with other softwares, not just Excel, right? We want to also build our Excel knowledge from the basics, so that when we get up there, we know that we are equipped with the basics. We can't learn everything, but we try our best to at least know a little of everything. So thank you very much for your time this evening. I'm very grateful for being here. All right. So see you all next time. Thank you very much. And bye bye. Have a nice evening.